Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to yet another Warhammer lore video, not an Armageddon one this time. That series did take a while, didn't it? And, well, you fucking wait until Vrax and see if you'll have nervous breakdown when it comes to Warhammer videos lacking. I'll probably have to do that in installments, but anyways, today we are going to be talking about everyone's favourite, lovely, fluffy Skaven. And not just any Skaven, possibly the best Skaven, which immediately brings up the question, what could possibly be better than an army of hind-leg-walking mutant rat monstrosities that all suffer from an overwhelmingly severe case of Sisyphus complex? Well, the people over at G-Dubs ask themselves that very same question, and before their complete and utter moral bankruptcy, that would eventually herald the creation of the Space Marine, GW answered that question in a far more prosaic fashion, namely by adding ninjas. Granted, it may perhaps not be the most original choice, but it certainly beats super soldiers, and so Clan Eshin was born. Hind-leg, backflipping, jumping mutant ninja rats that all suffer from an overwhelmingly severe case of said Sisyphus complex. Plus, they are all utterly and completely convinced that they are the protagonists in an American ninja movie. But before we get to all that lovely fluffy ninja nonsense, some backstory. Long ago, in the festering swamp the adorable fluffy fluff Skaven call a home, Clan Scryer made a whoopsie. And shortly thereafter, the Skaven Council decided that it was time that the various Skaven clans should venture out from Skavenblight and find new putrid dungholes to call home, so that yet another whoopsie could never get quite so close to wiping them all off the face of the earth again. Oh, Scryer, why must thou be so volatile? For ages, the adorable ratmen had lived together in murderous violence and never-ending backstabbery, and then one 13 times damn wrench rat goes, "Hey, I wonder what this button does," and shortly thereafter, every single Skaven with a firm grasp on reality is fearing for the safety of his fluffy ballsack, even more so than normal. For possibly the first time in history, the average ratman had found something other than his fellow Skaven to be deathly afraid of. And so many right-thinking two-legged mutant rats decided to leave their ancestral homes in search of a brand new and less likely to explode place to call their very own. And one of the many clans that decided that wandering the earth in search of a new home was preferable to squatting on top of a horned rat only knows how massive a pile of Scryer explosives was Clan Eshin, led by Grey Lord Viskitrin. The whole clan wandered its happy little collection of asses off into the east and far out of reach of Skavenblight, even choosing to leave the already established tunnel networks and continuing their travels deeper into the east on the surface. The clan eventually lost all means of communication with Skavenblight through sheer distance, and since the miraculous far squeaker had yet to be invented, the clan was effectively cut off, and indeed, the greater part of Skavendom figured the clan had been turned into various types of dinner for hungry animals. But far from becoming a tasty snack, however, the clan had gotten quite comfortable beneath the cities of the man-animals in Ind, Cathy, and Nippon, or, well, the majority of the clan, or, well, some of the clan, anyways, had not become snacks for hungry animals, or hors d'oeuvres for hungry Skavens, for that matter. And of course, the ever-intrepid slaves, brimming with entrepreneuring spirit, set about digging new tunnels and massive burrows for the Skaven clan to slink around in. The clan had almost certainly been reduced in numbers due to reasons of dietary requirements, both on the parts of the Skaven and the various hungry animals that populated the jungle that this massive buffet of Skavendom snaked its way through. To the horror of the poor unfortunate fluffy souls, it turned out the jungle was filled to the brim with various kind of toothed pussy and flesh-eating plants. As such, discretion was always the better part of valor, and rather than taking on the man-animals in a stupid fight, the Skaven simply burrowed in beneath them. Man-animals are remarkably silly creatures, after all, and drop all kinds of useful stuff into the sewers. Granted, the food in these parts were a bit spicy for the refined palates of any proper Skaven, but a solution was quickly discovered. Rather than dining directly on the curries and the Ind food, the Skaven would simply kidnap and eat the people who ate the food, creating a kind of takeaway combination meal. But spicy cuisine was not the only discovery made by the furry explorers. Whilst man-things are generally stupid, slow, smelly, obnoxious, loud, brutish, ugly, intrusive, club-footed, degenerate, scurvy, lewd, dastardly, inopportune bags of mouse droppings, there were actually a few things the majestic Skaven race could learn from them. It is, after all, true, as they say, in every burning latrine pit there might just be a glimmer of gold. And in this case, the glimmer turned out to be ninjas, rather than a particularly spicy meadow muffin. The exact details as to how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Rats gained their mysterious powers of Nimpo is unclear, though in all due likelihood they learned by studying the filthy, dirty man-animals, and making them reveal their secrets by poking sharp and exceedingly hot metal objects into their various private places. Amongst other things, it quickly became apparent that if you tease a man-animal's anus with hot pokers for long enough, he'll tell you pretty much anything. Alternatively, rather than learning from the masters, maybe they just watched a lot of anime and Naruto in particular, and their knowledge of ninjutsu is limited to screaming ninpo art, whilst hurling plastic shurikens at annoyed onlookers. I mentioned that possibility because the basic clan Eshin recruits, the so-called Night Runners, seem to die in prodigious quantities. The stealth level of these freshly minted backflips rats is less covert stealth master of sneaky stabby, and more drug-crazed Loxodonte Africana making his way through an orchestral pit with the brass instrument caught in his prodigious ball hairs. On the bright side, however, if the sneaky rat by some miracle survives his first mission, he might actually get some training. With any luck, these instructions will raise his stealth level to something more akin to wild flummox falling down a mountainside with a soon-to-be-dead Sherpa strapped to its back, and with a few more missions, and our plucky little rat ninja might even begin to tiptoe correctly and employ a high level of stealth tactics, like, for example, not constantly talking to himself or going "Rawr!" just before stabbing someone in the back. Indeed, I have it on good authority that some of the most successful rat assassins even employ various mysterious arts known as bathing to camouflage their natural odor. It's hard to describe the default aroma of a Skaven to a non-believer, but imagine, if you will, a threadbare hemp sack. Now imagine a particularly corpulent elephant seal vomiting into said sack whilst seasoning the mix with a few choice ingredients a la dead mice slow-boiled in his own offals, a sprinkling of mouldy cheese, and perhaps a handful of pineapples, cause the horned rat himself knows that shit does not go well with anything. And then finally, imagine said sack being magically lifted up in the non-existent hands of said elephant seal, who proceeds to viciously beat you over the head with the rapidly disintegrating sack. And that, more or less, is what a Skaven smells like. Now, with all that being said, Skaven are actually naturally sneaky critters. They're both faster and more agile than your average man-animal, and as such they are superlatively suited to the arts of sneaky-peeky. However, nature once again conspires to keep the proud Skaven down, as the Skavens are somewhat lacking in the brains department. A Skaven might be able to close on its target by squeezing through sewer grates and climbing along the roofs, for example, but Skaven have issue with lateral thinking. The average Skaven looks at himself like a fat man looks at a bacon cheeseburger. Lust, longing, and admiration in equal measures. As such, the noble rat beast has considerable problems imagining that anything he does could possibly go horribly wrong. When this sense of unassailable superiority is mixed with the equally massive sense of paranoia as to what his fellow ratmen are doing to his living quarters in his absence, the Skaven ninja has a nasty tendency of choosing the easiest and most direct route. Equally nastily, the easiest and most direct route also tends to be the most heavily guarded, leading to frequent and messy mishaps, often leading to death for the valorous ratkin. And only after having their marvellously glistening posteriors pulled from the fire on multiple occasions will a Skaven start to question whether or not he is truly immortal. And even then, most Skaven simply dismiss such silly thoughts as baseless nonsense, undoubtedly planted in their heads by vile and jealous competitors. But a handful will actually come to the rather astounding conclusion that maybe, just maybe, it might be better to go into a situation with a modicum of forethought. As the wannabe Eshin continues his training, which frequently consists of incrementally more suicidal missions, our young Skaven hero learns many skills that relate to the art of the ninja. Because as it turns out, crawling oh so silently along the rooftops is not the only weapon of the ninja. Clan Eshin uses a wide array of specialized weaponry, like the infamous Weeping Blades, hollowed-out blades with a nugget of warpstone fastened inside the sword. Through secretive alchemical means, this nugget is coaxed into producing a never-ending stream of highly corrosive warp fluids, easily able to eat through most metals and astonishingly lethal to living creatures. These weapons are usually only used if the target is particularly nasty and brutish, since these weapons require a lot of specialized equipment to store and maintain. For more mundane targets, the Eshin masters have crafted many virulent poisons that can be used to coat swords, daggers, or jagged throwing stars favored by the clan's gutter runners. The clan's more successful individuals also often purchase devices crafted by other clans. An assassin might, for example, use a poison-wind globe, a glass flask containing within it various toxic gases crafted by Clan Pestilence. These gas weapons are excellent against targets that inhabit enclosed spaces, like, for example, fellow rats. Some assassins also have been known to utilize the weapons crafted by Clan Scryer. Most consider these contraptions to be teensy-weensy bit unreliable for everyday use, but there is undeniably a certain charm in introducing a 250-gram ball of leaden warpstone into a target's chest cavity from over a kilometer away with a long-barreled jezile. The clan has also been known to use items like smoke bombs or climbing claws, for example, to help them traverse obstacles or escape pursuit. Of course, these instruments rarely come cheaply, so such weapons are usually only found amongst the higher ranks of Clan Eshin, whilst the lowly Night Runners is going to have to rely on simple daggers, fighting claws, and other basic metal weapons. Maybe a few choice poisons, and his natural fangs and claws to get the job done. Oh, and before I completely lose the plot by talking about rat ninjas, you may remember I said that the rest of Skavendom had lost contact with Clan Eshin. This would last for a long time, but eventually the clan returned to the fold. And what a time they picked to show up! The rest of Skavendom was currently involved in a massive civil war, one in a long line, but this one was slightly different, because this one involved pretty much everyone. And it was all due to another long-lost clan. Clan Pestilence had returned to Skavendom, and they had a rather distinct difference of opinion to the Skaven Council. The council thought that the Horned Rat was the Horned Rat, while Clan Pestilence figured he might be a bit more smelly, and so of course they started mauling each other in a vicious religious war. Natürlichen. Well, to be fair, wars have been fought for less, and this is the Skaven we are talking about here. They rarely need a particularly excellent reason to start backstabbing their friends and family. So before we get into the Clan Eshin's role, and it's a little bit of backstory, because it is a tad bit more complex than I initially led you to believe. The Skaven clan Pestilence had recently returned from Lustria after having had a bit of a rough run-in with the local lizardman population. They'd popped back over the sea, returned to Skavendom, introduced themselves to the Council of 13 and said, "We would like to have a fuck-ton of seats and representation, please, because, well, we're Skaven and we are the Skavens with the proper religion." You see, the Horned Rat is actually an image of the Great Corruptor. We have the correct story, and you dirty, filthy Jew... heathens, have the wrong idea of our religion. Therefore, you shall relinquish all control over Skavendom and give us all of the power. Unsurprisingly, the sitting Skaven Council then suggested that perhaps Clan Pestilence could take their spiky plague censer bearers and shove them up their own assholes. And this was considered to be a breach of diplomatic niceties, and war ensued for a few decades, with both sides throwing incredible amounts of poor fluffy rats at one another, with alliances constantly shifting and changing. Whenever one side was about to gain ultimate power, they would almost certainly be betrayed by everyone else, fearing that they might have been giving a little bit too much power to a single faction. And so it kept going back and forth for decades, with God only knows how many millions, if not billions, of poor innocent fluffy lives being lost. Until finally Clan Eshin made their way out of the fetid jungles of Ind and Cathy and re-established contact with the rest of Skavendom. Now, undoubtedly, they took a little bit of a time to look things over, have a good long think of the situation, and eventually decided to sell their services to the Council of 13. This was as far as any Skaven clan has ever gone to swear loyalty to any single faction, and indeed their loyalty seems to have been surprisingly steadfast. The Clan Eshin has never once betrayed the Council. Well, not outright anyways. They are happy to take contracts from the Council on other Council members, don't get me wrong, but never have they tried to depose the Council. They have established a careful balance of power, where the Council of 13 keeps control over most of Skavendom via uniting the various warring factions. This means that the Council itself is never a unified entity. And at the same time, Clan Eshin can operate as the Council's unofficial enforcers, receiving ridiculously good terms from the Council and enjoy extremely lucrative assassination contracts on their behalf. At the same time, the Council cannot move on Clan Eshin because they are too divided, and any Council member that goes, "Hey, should we stab the fluffy ninja rats?" will undoubtedly have another council member sneak off to those very same fluffy ninja rats and go, "Psst, so, I heard this one asshole wants to stab you." And then the problem will mysteriously disappear just like that. And on the other side, Clan Eshin has no real interest in overthrowing the Council, at the very least not yet. They know that they could not possibly rule all of the various Skaven clans through assassination alone. They need a standing army, and Clan Eshin really doesn't have much in the way of an actual military force. They can carry out assassinations, they can even carry out some fairly large-scale skirmishes, but an out-and-out war in the Under Empire would probably not be to Clan Eshin's advantage. Anyways, back for a moment to the Civil War. How precisely did Clan Eshin fix all of this? Well, when they sold their services exclusively to the Council, suddenly high-ranking Clan Pestilence officials started disappearing. All the fucking time, until eventually Clan Pestilence realized that they couldn't stand up to the current council. No one would support them anymore because they were afraid of the council's new shadowy enforcers. And so, with their support base quickly and surely eroding right beneath them, Clan Pestilence had to sue for peace. Thusly, Clan Pestilence sued for a parley with the council, and the council said, "Well, come to Skavenblight, no one will interfere with your travels." And so Lord Nurglicht, along with most of his most vicious plague lords, travelled to Skavenblight. And after surviving a few hundred assassination attempts, Lord Nurglicht finally made it all the way to the Skaven capital, where he based himself at the Great Temple of the Horned Rat. and unreservedly placed the resources and loyalties of his clan at the disposition of the Council of 13. And oh, by the by, while I'm doing this, Lord Nurgle said, I would also like to inform you that I am carrying about 5 gallons of the most virulent toxins known to Skavendom, amongst them the rightfully feared yellow skull fever, and as such any further attempts upon my life might lead to mishaps. And considering the fact that the Lord of Clan Pestilence was currently in the heart of Skavendom, wearing what amounted to a nuclear weapon in virus form, the Skaven Council graciously accepted his offer. And so, with peace finally restored, Lord Nurgle immediately challenged one of the Lords of Decay, Lord Vask, and defeated him in single combat, thereby earning his seat under the Council of 13, the 7th seat to be precise. After that, Clan Eshin, having received their own seat, resumed their duties as the Council's enforcers and quickly brought any misguided clans that still remained back into the fold, via the most gentle of persuasions and the most subtle of poisons. And ever since that day, Clan Eshin has held an incredibly valued position within Skaven society, offering their services to anyone capable of paying. They offer a wide variety of services, ranging of course from simple assassinations to outright decimations of entire clans. You could, for example, hire Clan Eshin to take out a annoying rival. And as the consummate businessmen they are, Clan Eshin offers a wide variety of low-cost business packs to their ever-loving clients. You could, for example, send a few useless night runners after them and gamble on that, hoping that they'll somehow succeed. You might get a couple more expensive gutter runners that are far more likely to succeed, or you might even get the services of a true assassin, which is not by any means cheap. You could also, for example, hire large numbers of assassins to aid in military operations, as scouts, as forward assassins, as skirmishers, or even perhaps to decimate an enemy clan in preparation for an all-out assault on said clan. Clan Eshin is very, very flexible, and always more than willing and happy to acquiesce to any request made by their adoring customer base. And considering their customer base is made up largely of batshit insane Skaven with more enemies than fur, they are unlikely to be running out of business anytime soon as they continue to hone their craft both in service of the Council and anyone else with enough warp token to purchase their ever-so-skilled assistance. And with that, I will end this lore video on the Skaven clan Eshin, a mere 20 minutes video, because, well, it's not Armageddon, is it? You're going to have to get used to shorter videos now that I've refocused myself to a smaller subject, aren't you? Unfortunate, but oh well, such is life. I'm sure I'll get around to doing the Siege of Rax sometimes over the next 20-odd years, so you'll get to have hour-long videos again then. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.